Does yoga really accelerates our perception or, to perceive this reality as it is?
Yes. What yoga can do and does do, I'm talking about yoga in the ultimate sense of the term, not simply asanas and all, which are okay. I practice asanas daily, good to keep your body and mind healthy, fine. True understanding of yoga means Yoga Vasishtha, there is no mention. You see, you know what Yoga Vasishtha is. It's the great sage Vasishtha talking to Rama in Ayodhya, in the palace, because Rama gets depressed. Can you imagine that? and, say, and says, what is the meaning of life? Why are we doing? So, Vishwamitra, see what happens. You know the story of how Vishwamitra comes to claim the boys to take them to the forest. Dasharatha has promised Vishwamitra. But then he feels bad. He said, why are you taking Rama? He's only 16 years old. How can you fight the rat? Actually, he feels, what will happen to my son?
Right.
So Vasishtha intervenes and says, King, you can't say this because you promised. If you promise and don't keep your promise, who will keep the promise in this country? Well, now it is very common with the rulers, but I'm just talking about those days when dharma really worked. So I promise. And then they say, go and fetch Rama. Let's ask him. So the attendant goes to fetch him and he comes back and says, sir, I don't know what to tell Rama. He's there. He had gone for a trip to Himalayas and all and come back. And he says, what is all this nonsense? He's not eating properly. He's not drinking properly. He's not interested in the dancing girls. In the palace, there are all these dancing girls and so on. You know why? So all this is happening. He's not interested. He's saying, what is this life which is going to... So Vasishtha says, ask him that I am calling him. This is Guru. Then Rama opens the dialogue in Yoga, saying, what is this life all about? What are these Rakshasas? What is this life? Why am I carrying on like this? We are born and we die, and the pain and suffering. And Vasishtha begins to teach him. This is Yoga Vasishtha. So their yoga title is given not because it's some kind of a practice, but it is some kind of a inquiry. Like the Bhagavad Gita, all the 18 chapters are called yoga.
Right.
From Arjuna Vishada Yoga onwards. So yoga is a mode by which you try to find the truth. This is what yoga is. So yoga Vasishtha. So therefore, the meaning of yoga here, see, without a healthy body, you cannot have a healthy mind. Without a healthy mind, you cannot even inquire. So first steps are laid. And then begins the inquiry. And through the practices like Kriya and so on, there are many other practices. You open up your understanding and intelligence so that it grasps subtle things. Subtle thoughts can be grasped. Unless that is grasped, you cannot go beyond. So basically, it's the opening of your conditioning, not making something happen, but opening your conditioning so that when something happens, it is registered.
Right.
This is the perfection that you look for in yoga. So you have to have certain kinds of food so that the gross influence of food is not in your body and mind. You have to keep your brain free from being intoxicated with substances, because then you cannot think clearly. This is not trying to throw away thought. It's trying to make it subtler and subtler and subtler till one day it just becomes quiet. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha, then all the vrittis are removed. And then in that chitta, according to Yoga Vasishtha, again, since we are on the subject, that mind then in its calmness and quietness is no longer the mind, it is the Purusha himself, itself, let's say. There are no two things then. It's only one. And that is pure consciousness. The mind itself does not exist as a separate entity. The mind exists as a separate entity as long as it has vrittis. When the vrittis are gone, there is no separate entity.
Right.
It's only consciousness. This is the meaning of yoga in Yoga Vasishtha, and also in the ultimate sense, this is what yoga is all about.